Welcome back to Metropole Television. You're watching Business AM. My name is Simba. Elijah Charles Kiage. Washington is in the house. Washington, good morning.
Good morning.
Happy to see you, sir.
Yeah, happy New Year.
It's a good 2020.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, as it is.
That's what's going to happen this year, man.
Yeah, it is raining.
Yeah, well, it's raining. that rain is too much, you know that. Eh?
Is it too much?
Go to the countryside. It's called crops.
Yeah.
But the bad thing that's going to happen of all this rain is the water runs off all of it.
Yes.
No one harvests it.
That's it, isn't it?
That's the biggest problem with this country. Rain comes in abundance, supposed to be harvested. No one is harvesting the water.
Yeah. Right now, we got no problem. Everybody says it rained throughout the last year.
Rained.
Now it's
you
raining.
got all the rain. Why is
it?
it? Where's the water? It's gone.
All right. I just want us to look at the major issues that are taking center stage in the economy. That is 2020 now. 2020 has just begun, that's fine. But now the real estate sector is expected to recover from oversupply of property within this year. Well, according to the Cyton 2020 Markets Outlook report, following an oversupply of properties in the real estate, residential and office space, there will be a slowdown in investment this year to allow the market to absorb the current space available. With an oversupply of 5.6 million square feet in office space, there will be a slowdown in investment with focus over the next 5 to 6 years being on the uptake of the space. Furthermore, recovery is expected in the residential space, which has an oversupply of 2.5 million square feet, which are expected to be absorbed in the next 2 years, with developers developing property for the middle and low income bracket, contrary to the usual upper class. However, the sector is expected to experience a slowdown brought about by challenges such as government bureaucracy. Cyton Investment says the government bureaucracy could be the biggest impediment to the real estate sector. Where does this leave the ease of coming up with units under the affordable housing pillar, under the Big Four agenda, which the government keeps promising investors? What do you forecast for the real estate sector 2020 with the big players like HF, now that is Housing Finance, quitting the construction of units? I want us to look at that report by Ondiro Ganga from the Cyton Investments, and then after that we get talking about it this morning. Take us there.
The real estate sector in the country grew by 4.8% on average from the first quarter of 2019 to the third quarter of 2019. This is a 0.3 percentage point higher than the growth recorded over the same period in 2018, according to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. According to Cyton Investment, the sector was beset by an oversupply of 5.6 million square feet in office space and a further oversupply of 2.5 million square feet in residential space. This situation is expected to see a slowdown in investment, with a focus over the next 5 to 6 years being on uptake of space. Cyton Investment real estate analyst Beatrice Mwangi said the outlook for the real estate sector in 2020 is expected to remain neutral.
So for 2020, we have a neutral outlook for the sector, mainly because we have a negative outlook in some sectors, 2 of the sectors. For 3 of the sectors, we have a positive outlook, and 2, we have a neutral outlook. We have key drivers, as first of all, the affordable housing. We have the incoming and sustained infrastructure development, which we expect to keep opening up areas for development and increasing property prices.
However, investment is expected to be slowed down by perennial challenges, key being the slow process of acquiring government permits required for development to take place.
First of all, we have the delay in processing of permits. We have the existing supply in select sectors. We also have issues mainly with the Kenya Mortgage Refinancing Company, as much as we expect it to enhance housing loans. We are not sure that's going to be very successful, maybe because of the way it's structured.
The Cyton report also shows the real estate sector's performance slowed down towards the close of the year, recording an average total return of 9.0%, a 2.2 percentage points decline from 11.2% recorded in 2018. The decline was attributed mainly to a drop in demand for property, evidenced by the 3.4% decline in the residential sector annual uptake and the current glut in office space and residential space.
For example, for 2020, we don't have incoming supply for the retail sector, so expect the supply that's there, the oversupply, to be absorbed over time. So for the retail sector, if there's no incoming supply as it is now, then over time we'll be able to absorb the supply and maybe the returns will get back to normal. However, key to note, it's not only oversupply that's affecting the returns. For the commercial office, the supply is quite high, and there's still incoming supplies. For that one, it may take a bit long to absorb it. And then for the residential sector, the problem has been mainly in the high-end market. So there's no effective demand, because what is demanded is mainly in the low and middle markets. What's being supplied in the high-end, so that mismatch. So with time, developers are getting to understand what the problem is, and we've seen more and more investors then looking into the low and mid, and so we expect that then to bring us to a balance over time.
On Kenya's general economic outlook, the Kenyan shilling is expected to depreciate and hold value between 101 to 104 Kenyan shillings to the dollar, mainly pegged on pressure on foreign reserves and the expiry of diaspora tax amnesty.
The factors that we expect to drive the performance mainly are in terms of forex reserves, diaspora remittances, as well as balance of payment. For balance of payment, we expect an increase in the imports oil bill, as well as also a reduction in terms of the value of the exports that are in our country. The other thing is forex reserves. As per historical trends, like last year we experienced an all high in terms of forex reserves, which was mainly due to forex receipts from foreign denominated debt, that is the 2.1 billion euro bond. But for this year, we've seen the main factors that has been driving forex reserves are in terms of diaspora remittances and debt, and with the expectations of a decline in diaspora remittances as well as the outflows in terms of debt repayments, we expect this to put pressure on the Kenyan shilling.
Despite the expected slow uptake of property expected in the real estate sector in 2020, development returns for investment-grade real estate are still estimated to be approximately 20 to 25% per annum, which is among the highest returns that can be posted by any sector in the country. For Metropole TV, I'm Ondero Oganga.
All right, thank you very much, Ondero Oganga, for that report. I just want us to begin it from this point. Now, Saturn Investment says that the biggest impediment to the real estate sector in 2020 could be, number one, government bureaucracy.
Yeah.
But Washington, you'd expect that there's a government that is telling us about the Big Four agenda. That has been their riding platform.
That's right.
For running this government.
That's right.
And then under that again, you find that the biggest impediment also comes from the government. So we're preaching a different song, but in reality, on the ground, we're still stuck to the same bureaucracies that we should have removed before even telling us about the Big Four agenda.
That's right. I think it's more of a tradition how things are done in this country.
Yes.
Because most governments they're really stuck on bureaucracy. They take too long to make a decision, such that an event could be overtaken by time.
Yes.
When you say to do something, for example, in January, and you find you're getting the permit to do it in December, that the whole 365 days have passed before that happens, That's definitely an impediment. And you see, the Big Four agenda, especially the housing issue,
yes.
it is a plus. It's good thinking, so to speak. But good thinking has got to go with good intentions, Because you look at even without looking at the government bureaucracy, look at the cost of production of these units. The cost of production in Kenya is very, very high. Look at the cost of electricity. Electricity is used as far as making housing is concerned, for example, like in cutting steel and stuff like that, when you're building. Things like diesel fuel. Diesel fuel is used a lot in construction.
Yes.
Now we have a 16% VAT on diesel fuel. That means the cost of fuel, as far as construction is concerned, has gone up. We should be looking at, the government should be a little bit it should be looking at better ways of implementing its thoughts or its programs. Reduce, for example, the VAT on fuel, or reduce zero rate as far as its construction, so
yes.
that at the end of the day, the houses that you're building become cheaper. What's the use of getting expensive houses? What's the use of using such expensive ways of building houses? Then who's going to buy?
Yes.
And right now as we speak in this country, we have a recession. The economy is practically not growing.
Yes.
Although we start hearing,
they say that on paper we are not there yet, but everything really points towards that.
I mean,
Yes.
let me tell you, don't be lied to by figures from the government.
Yes.
The government keeps on lying about figures.
Yes.
This economy is not growing. Let me tell you. I mean, if you go to the ground, so to speak, yala mashinani, you find how people are suffering, how people have no money.
Yes.
And people are asking, how come there's no money in the economy? But there's no money, you know? And why? Because we use wrong ways of production. Look at even if simple things like eggs, you have to import into this country. You know? Look at, I mean, agricultural products you have to import. Things like those are wrong. I mean, it's wrong. Whatever is happening in this country, no, there should be better ways of production.
Yes.
To enrich the populace,
Yes.
and to make the economy go higher. Remember, right now as a country, we've come from a low income country to a mid-level income country, not a high. You see,
Yes.
mid-level means there are so many other advantages come with it, also the disadvantages. Because even when you borrow money from mid-level mid-level economy, you don't borrow it at the same terms as a low-level economy. Because a low-income economy gets better terms of borrowing money. But then it seems like everything is just being rushed. Things are not being well thought out. Things are not being well calculated in this country, Simba, for us to really experience the good intentions
Yes.
of the government.
Yes.
Right?
I just want us to look at another figure that the Saitama Investment Report is actually pointing towards to. They're saying that there is an oversupply of office space. What does that tell you exactly about the performance of the economy? Because the real estate sector performs towards the economic sentiment.
right.
Has it changed? Is the corporate sector now struggling to the point now the real estate sector has to hold on to wait for these spaces to be taken up? That's after that now they can get back to constructing them.
You're right.
Yes.
You see, the real estate sector predicts the growth of the economy.
Yes.
If it predicts the economy is going up, so they provide more units for people to set up their businesses.
Yes.
Go downtown. Go to downtown here at Nyamakema and River Road. There are so many closed shops because of the government directives about importation of products, right? I mean, the current office space that is there, people are vacating. We've also seen even people offering discounts
Yes.
on rent. First ever it's ever been seen in this country. Now they're no longer talking about goodwill. Now they're talking about, come, I give you 1 month rent free. Then you continue, so you can, I mean, to attract people. Some people are even lowering the rent
Yes.
by maybe 20%. If you're paying 10,000, you find that your rent has been to 8,000. Why? Because the economy is not growing, right? So this issue of there's too much rent space, new units, here I talk about new units. We're not talking about the old units that have been vacated.
Yes.
Those are new units. So the point is this, the economy has to grow for this uptake of premises to be there.
Yes.
And of course it affects even the residential sectors, you know. In residences in Nairobi, you find now people pulling up and staying in one room, so maybe like 2 families staying in a room or staying in a house, so to speak, because people have to survive at the end of the day.
Yes.
That comes back to the issue that we're talking about. The economy is not growing.
Yes.
And despite the stories being given, you know.
And another factor that somebody will want to interrogate is that you would think now, therefore, it will be easier for us to see more units constructed, and the ones that are not performing actually made easier by the launch of the mortgage refinancing company. I mean, that's the biggest thing that President Uhuru Kenyatta did under the affordable housing pillar of the Big Four agenda. How do you rate the performance of the mortgage refinancing company? Because you would tend to think that with it being in operation, big entities like Housing Finance could have not really quit the construction of units in the Kenyan economy, because one big factor that Housing Finance was known for, it was because of how cheap the units were.
Yeah.
But when you have big players like HF quitting now the construction of those units, and then at the same time you have the mortgage refinancing company that was launched by the president just the other year, how do you actually now vet this the big four agenda under affordable housing when you have the mortgage refinancing company, which is practically now being seen to do nothing to ease the burden of the construction of these units?
But you see, mortgages is all about loans.
Yes.
I mean, in a name.
Yes.
These are loans that people are expected to take up. But you see, do you know, you've seen, you saw, for example, like last year, I think it's even happening even this year,
Yes.
whereby space by auctioneers, the auctioneers are taking up the most space in newspapers to sell property.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
This involves especially residential properties of people who've not been able to pay for their mortgages, right? So whether you refinance mortgages, whether you introduce better terms of taking up loans, the point is this: the existing ones, no one is able to pay for their. And remember, mortgages are very, very expensive in this country. Very, very expensive, and it's a long term.
Yes.
Right now, you cannot predict what's going to happen 5 years from today, 10 years from today. Remember, we have this issue of the bad things happening, for example, like during the campaign time, when every 5 years.
Yes.
Now the economy coming down, you have the economy slowing down, and this has affected the economy in a way that companies are pulling out of this country in the long term. You cannot predict in the long term what's going to happen.
Yes.
Right? Especially because of what the government, it's basically the government policies. And this includes politics and all that. Because politics, you see, I was reading something very, very amazing about a company like Malaysia. Where Malaysia, at one time, it was at par with Kenya in the 70s. But how come right now we can't even be anywhere comparable to them? Despite having almost parallel experiences, you know? We started along together, but at this time,
Yes.
that's almost like a first world country, as we speak, because of, I mean, they have taken care of their politics, so to
Yes,
speak.
yes.
They've completely taken care of their politics. No more racial tensions in their country, no more, because the ruling class has been able to tackle that. Now, that's the kind of thing that we need in this country. There's nothing that is going to help this country as long as politicking and stuff is concerned. This economy will never grow.
Yes.
And it causes jitters, especially to the business community.
Yes.
You can come up with good refinancing mortgages. You can come with any kind of schemes you're going to have. But at the end of the day, what is on the ground?
It's the economic sentiment that people are looking for.
That's right.
All right, I just want us to move to the next one again this morning. Now, the National Treasury is seeking for financial resources to recapitalize Kenya Airways. This is a big one. Acting Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani has said the government is working on a plan to revive the national carrier, which is technically insolvent. At the moment, his remarks come nearly 6 months after the National Assembly passed a report that proposed the renationalization of Kenya Airways as well as its placement under an aviation holding company in a bid to restructure its balance sheet. Now, the government of Kenya is the largest shareholder in Kenya Airways with a 48.9% shareholding in the airline. It has already been 6 months since the proposal was floated. That aside, KQ has an acting CEO in place. Should the board have settled for a substantive CEO to get the company through this process? Should the company have solved its leadership management woes before seeking to fully go into renationalization? Which will be the best source of funds for the government to inject into KQ? Those are the biggest questions that we're asking this morning. I just want us to have a look at that statement from Ukur Yatani, then after that, settle into the conversation. Looking for that statement. Once we have it, we'll come back and actually get to it. Now, it's 6 months since we actually say that the best way for KQ is renationalization. We've been there, we came out of it, and now we want to go back there. That's a pattern that has been observed now. And I want to say that we were told that the best way out for KQ is renationalization. From where you sit, Washington, I just want to start from that. Is it the best way out for KQ? Would that mean that for the very first time we will renationalize this company, that we can actually start talking of getting it back? Because we've seen proposals. I mean, we've seen proposals of making KQ not pay taxes for 6 years. That also didn't work. Would you say that that is the best one?
It's good. I mean, it's all about management of, I think management of an airline.
Yes.
I don't think it's so easy as we have seen with KQ.
Yes.
Remember, KQ has been hailed as the most expensive way to travel as far as airlines is concerned. It's so expensive to travel.
Yes.
It's almost twice the normal travel with the other airlines, right? Remember, when the other CEO quit, this Polish guy.
Mikosh.
Yeah, when he's Polish,
Yes.
when he quit, what are the main reasons he gave for quitting? One of the reasons was this, that as far as KQ is concerned, it cannot be managed, it cannot be able to compete with other airlines
Yes.
because all the other airlines have been nationalized.
Yes.
They're 100% state-owned, right?
Yes.
Even, well, that means that the government is able to pump in money all the time should any hiccup occur, for example, in management issues.
Yes.
But like your question asks, shouldn't we get our management issues at hand first before
Do
nationalization?
you feel that at this point, when we're talking about this transition now to be nationalization, that the biggest thing the board could have done is appoint a substantive CEO to actually take us through this journey, as opposed to having somebody in acting capacity?
True. No, you're very right. You're very
Yes.
right. Because at the end of the day, this Mikosh, when Mikosh left, he talked about the only way out for KQ
Yes.
is nationalizing it.
Yes.
He gets the assets of JKI. He gets, I mean, that basically was his issue.
Yes.
Because any other way, it was not working.
Yes.
As a going concerns, as an entity that is supposed to make money,
Yes.
profits, so to speak. Remember, in nationalization, you don't necessarily have to go for profit. You know? When you nationalize something, it becomes a government parastatal.
Yes.
Government parastatals are not known for profits
Yes.
or for efficiency, so
Yes,
to speak.
Washington, which actually begs another question now.
Yeah.
It is 2020, it's a new decade as well. We're talking about now the government being fully in business. But I just want us to go back to 2019 and look at all the other government agencies that are down on the ground. I mean, we just have to go to Kenya Power, we have to go to Mumia Sugar, we have to go to the Portland Cement Company that we actually see. They're on the ground. What makes KQ special? What makes it so special to the point that we have to say, well, for this company, there's no any other way out other than renationalization? Are we looking at this text that come with a government owning the airline as opposed to actually this entity being in business? Because we know we need so much money to buy out the other shareholders now as it stands.
But the point is this.
Yes.
You see, when you have a government running institutions,
Yes.
it's all about having the Auditor General auditing those companies to make sure that they're being run properly.
Yes.
There's no rocket science in that. If they're being mismanaged, sack people, jail people and stuff like that.
Yes.
That doesn't happen in this country.
Yes. Would you also say that KQ's woes boil down to just management, or there's more to the eye than we can see?
There is more, of course. You found out the other day that someone was trying to acquire it behind the scenes. Someone was trying to acquire JKA and KQ, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So maybe someone wants to run it down so they can take it up. I mean, there's always those conspiracy theories.
We've seen how journeys have come. We've seen how journeys have come. Somebody can tell us to substantiate, and then we will probably
We can substantiate.
isn't it? We've seen how the journey has come.
Yeah.
The biggest proposal that was put on the table for KQ is just to merge the books for KQ and Kenya Airports Authority.
Yeah.
But then they refused and said, well,
That's
you
right.
are not the ones to tell us exactly what to do. You
That's
are the
right.
one in trouble. Would you say that this could have actually helped KQ, because that's what Mikosh was working for, as opposed to totally renationalizing this company?
right.
Because that means that all these losses and liabilities that KQ could have had could have been easily dissolved by merging with KAA.
or dissolved or accommodated by
Yes,
KAA,
yes.
right? But you see, I mean, the
Could
first
have that
place.
been a faster process for us
Well,
to
it
take?
would have been a faster process, because at the end of the day,
Yes.
you've got to get management issues. You've got to get the airline being run like a good profitable business.
Yes.
So that's the first thing that we start with. Before even, I mean, it's not very fair. Kenya Ports Authority did a good thing by refusing that, because you don't mismanage something, then you bring it to me, you cover the losses. And then if you bring it to me, then also you need to manage it.
Yes.
You know?
Washington, as we clear this morning, we do know that we don't have the money right now. KRA is struggling to meet its collection targets. We're seeing exactly what's happening in the country. Everybody's complaining about how there's lack of liquidity in the market.
Yeah.
Now, The government, and I would say acting CS Ukur Yatani, now has another bigger responsibility to figure where we're going to get 30 billion plus to actually take KQ back
There's
to the hands
money.
of the government.
There's money.
Where's the money going to come from?
The money is BBI took 10 billion. Where did the money come from? Same place where the money came from.
Yes.
There's money in this country. It's not that it's been embezzled everywhere. There's a lot of money in this country
Yes.
to run issues. But how come we are losing billions
Yes.
every year? You see, I don't know. Where did this conversation come from that we don't have money in this country?
Yes.
Where is the money to be embezzled? Where does it come from? Where does the money come from?
I just want us to hold
They
on to
always
that.
borrow money in this country,
I
but
just want us to hold on to that thought. All right, now, local bus assembly and body fabricators are set for a major boost after Housing and Urban Development Principal Secretary Charles Hinga reversed a decision to import bus rapid transit BRT vehicles from South Africa. Mr. Hinga on Monday said preference will now be given to the supplier, the Mercedes-Benz buses, to assemble the high-capacity buses in the country at a cost that is yet to be established. Now, the buses are to be deployed on the already marked Thika superhighway and other major roads within the city. It's not yet clear where the supplier of the buses will set up a plant in Kenya and the expected timeline, dashing hopes for those people who actually wanted to use BRT buses sooner rather than later. Begging the question, Washington, everybody did talk about this a long time ago.
yeah.
There was this plan, when it was tabled in Parliament, everybody went talking about it and said, we do not need to import these buses. Please look for local help. You can actually get it.
True.
Why is it taking us this long, therefore, for us to finally come to this decision? Number two, we're already marking the road, which has already been remarked as well. I can tell you that from first-hand experience. I've seen it. They marked the first time, the line sort of disappeared. Since we've been waiting for the buses for a very long time, we started remarking it as well. From where you sit, did it have to take more than a year for us to actually now come to the decision we don't need to import it, or this should have been the first way to go?
Listen, Simba. What happens in this country as far as projects are concerned?
Yes.
First of all, you look at people look at how they're going to benefit people in government. So if they find that there's no what that timeline, I'm trying to explain your timeline. Why did it take so long? Because maybe someone along the way found out that they cannot benefit from
Yes,
it.
yes.
Yes. Because if it was a clean deal, something to be done, how many local assemblers can do this?
Yes.
How many?
Yes.
You have we have companies here that do assembling, that do body works. So many.
Yes.
We can name them, although you don't want to name them now, but they are there, isn't it? Like you're asking why did it take so long? Because someone somewhere found out he cannot eat this money. So let it go back to the drawing board, or let it go back to the transport CS.
Yes.
And let him introduce it again. But like you're saying, this don't not the issues of this government is on and stuff. They don't augur so well for so many things that are happening in this country.
Yes.
And we've got to tell things as they are, because that's how things are
Yes.
in this country.
Yes.
That we need to know the king that is naked.
Yes.
You know?
Just one question just before we clear this. Just a 1 minute response from you, Washington. It's gonna take long because now we've taken the other process. We've said a company has to come here and set up a plant to actually assemble these buses, isn't it? Good for us because we can actually come in and give them conditions that you gotta use our local force and all that to actually assemble and maintain these buses.
That's right.
Good for us. But we're looking at the timeline, isn't it?
Yeah, true.
Are we supposed to question the timeline now when now this new plan has been hatched?
Well, this new plan should be implemented within no time, because I don't think there's any problem as far as setting up an assembly plant. I don't think it can take a week to do that.
Yes.
If the government wants, you see. But like you see, apart from government bureaucracy, the issue of vested interests in all these projects is what makes delay in this country.
Yes.
That's why you have got to keep on repeating and painting, because at the end of the day, the time taken to do stuff in this country is way too long. It is like no one has the interest of this country at heart.
Pretty much.
You know?
Washington, I beg that we stop right now. isn't it?
Yeah.
We had one issue to look at in terms of fuel prices in the country, but since we don't have time for that, we actually expect that the prices are going to go up. So we're going to talk about inflation numbers as well as we get into 2020. Good. That's exactly what we had for you this morning. We were with Washington Dagea as we look at the top economic issues that are taking center stage in the economy as you wake up today. Now you know you can catch us live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, so that you can also get to be part and parcel of this conversation. We take a short break. Once we come back, let's question the performance of the tea industry in Kenya, and more especially KTDA, after the break.